Hello, thank you for inviting me to talk about craft spirits here in Berlin. I'm based here in Berlin, so I will try to talk about or give you a broad overview over the European craft spirits market, but especially about, of course, the German situation where we work. Okay, this is about me. Okay. Actually, I promised when I was invited to do this talk not to talk too much about gin. So I thought I'd start my presentation with gin, so to get it out of the way as soon as possible. We have here in Germany, Austria, Switzerland, we have around 1,000 gin brands at the moment. And that's actually a quite new phenomenon. 10 years ago, we had less than 10 gin brands. So within 10 years, there's an incredible explosion of gin. This has happened probably all over the world, but I want to go shortly into why it's especially happened in Germany. And still, the market share of gin in Germany is quite small. It's 4.1%. Of course, it was growing over the last years. Like 10 years ago, it was around 1%. Now it's 4.1%. But the reason why gin is such an important engine for the craft movement in Germany has to do, like very often when you talk about liquor, with liquor laws and liquor taxation. And in Germany, you have a very old tradition of what you called Abfindungsbrennrecht, which is basically a compensation taxation for small distilleries. And until recently, actually until beginning of 2019, this special law was only applied in the southern part of Germany. And these so-called Abfindungsbrenner were mostly fruit eau de vie producers, and they were allowed to distill 300 liters of alcohol per year. So basically, if you have if you produce a eau de vie with 40%, and you bottle it with in let's say 500 milliliter bottles, it's like around 1,500 bottles was the maximum production capacity. Also, the stills were regulated, or are still regulated. The pot stills were only allowed to have contain 150 liters of mash. So basically, this was the setting. And then, of course, when the gin hype started 10 years ago, this was, of course, an incredible opportunity for all these eau de vie producers to produce gin, because the neutral alcohol, the grain spirit they bought, and was not deducted from their 300 liters which they were allowed to produce every year. So for a lot of small eau de vie producers, it was a great opportunity to start with their own gin brands. And we have this kind of unique situation in Germany. Austria is a little bit similar in this situation, but that there are still around 18,000 of these small distilleries up and running in Germany, which is, of course, something which is quite different from other situations in other countries, also in Europe. For instance, like in the US, in 2000, there were around 24 craft distilleries compared to 18,000 in Germany. And also, there were, I think, around 70 distilleries altogether 30 years ago all over the US. And also in other European countries, there a lot of laws were in place to kind of not allow producers, farmers, to distill their own products. And this is quite different from the situation in especially Austria and Germany and parts of Eastern Europe, where you only could get this so-called Abfindungsbrennrecht if you own a couple of fruit trees. So you had to be a farmer, or at least a small farmer, to be able to produce alcohol within this law and with this special taxation. And this is, of course, for a long time, these distillers were also not allowed to distill what you call in German, or in the German technical term, mehlige Stoffe, which means starch. So for a long time, they were only allowed to distill fruit. This changed quite a while ago. So all these small distilleries also started to produce their own grain spirits to make whiskey. So right now in Germany, there are more whiskey producers than there are in Scotland, for instance, although probably all German whiskey producers produce as much whiskey as probably one Scottish distillery does. A little bit about my background. I started years ago to work with a very traditional German spirit, Kornbrand, also a kind of grain spirit which has more tradition in the northern part of Germany, and then founded around 10 years ago Craft Spirits Berlin, which is now the biggest festival for craft spirits in Europe. And then in 2016 I founded Freimeisterkollektiv, which is a network of independent producers. We go to distilleries, we go to distillers, create together with them unique products, and then we do the bottling, but also the whole distribution and marketing. But for our Craft Spirits Festival, we tried to set up certain rules so that we could tell who is able to participate in our competition, but also in the trade fair, and who is not. And this is, of course, a very difficult thing, because how do you define craft, especially when it comes to the distilling? We, of course, try to define it not by the quantity our producers are producing, but more like, of course, the ingredients they are using. And one part was also that we said, okay, we should maybe also focus on how these distilleries are work on an economic base. Are they part of a bigger corporation, or are they independent family-owned distilleries? We do believe that this is also influential on the way distillers produce. If you have a big corporation involved, you usually have also a lot of controllers involved who try to optimize the profit, and that is often not leading to a craft product. But that's, of course, up to discussion later on. It's really hard to define what is craft. And friends of us, German, French, European group of distillers got together and created the so-called Natural Booze Manifesto. And they go even further and they say, well, actually, we don't accept liquor which is based on NGS, on neutral grain spirit. And of course, this is a discussion which is also for us relevant, because that would exclude most of the gins, even the craft gins, because most of the craft gin producers, as I said before, buy neutral grain spirits, which is usually industrially produced, and is of course the main ingredients when you make a gin or a vodka. Then what is it? Is it like an empty canvas, or is it actually a main ingredients of a product which is supposed to be craft? So this is a discussion which is going on, and this particular group, of the Natural Booze Manifesto, they are very close connected to the natural wine movement and get a lot of influence from the natural wine movement, and try to also apply certain rules from this category to the spirits category. But if you walk around here at the fair, there's still this kind of way to market spirits by lifestyle, and the premiumization of spirits is still a big thing. This, of course, is even further pushed by a lot of celebrity products. I just picked a couple of these products just because I thought it's so incredible how many celebrities have their own booths now. I particularly like, of course, the tequila of Elon Musk, because the combination of alcohol and driving is not so usual. But in this case, it probably is accepted because we're going to soon have autonomous driving. But anyhow, we, as craft producers ourselves and also as organizers of a craft spirits event, are looking for inspiration in other categories. We, of course, as I said before, also are influenced or inspired by certain ideas of the natural wine movement. But, of course, the craft beer segment is always interesting to look at, more in the way it's narrated as a David against Goliath narrative. And, of course, in the chocolate world, you have this whole bean-to-bar movement. And, of course, third wave coffee, specialty coffee, is very interesting, especially when it comes to ideas of terroir. And this also defines for us how you maybe could look at creating or defining craft spirits. We, as Freimeisterkollektiv, have this kind of, we could almost call it a trinity of three different aspects. Author, so the creator of the product, the ingredients the distiller is using, and the terroir, so basically the whole climate plus region where the product is actually produced. And when it comes to terroir, of course, it's important how to define the qualities of the region and how to kind of blend this into a product, how to create a product where you have a certain quality of a region. You see this very much now in the bean-to-bar chocolate world, where you have single lot chocolates, but of course also in the coffee world, where you have a lot of micro lot, single lot coffees, and where the whole storytelling about the origin of the coffee is really important also for the whole experience. I just came across a rum brand which I thought is going in a quite interesting direction. Renegade Rum. They are based in Granada. They have a distillery there. They source their sugarcane from different regions of Granada, and each bottle has a code, a cane code, they call it, and then you can basically enter the code into the website, and then you exactly get overview from where this particular cane is grown, when it was grown, when it was harvested, and also a clear definition about the quality of the soil where the grain was grown. So I think this is a very interesting project. I think it's pretty new, and it shows you also in how far you can go when you want to do the storytelling about terroir. Ingredients is of course very important. We know, of course, from the wine world that ingredients is not everything, because we saw, of course, in the last couple of decades that Chardonnay from California tastes more or less the same sometimes as a Chardonnay from, let's say, a European wine region. But of course, ingredients are very important, and the definition of what you use is also depends, of course, very much what kind of liquor it is. Very important. So we at Freimeisterkollektiv, of course, list all our ingredients at the label. But of course, there are certain products where the ingredients have more influence on the flavor profile of a product. Like, for instance, we did a couple of years ago, we did a mezcal with a distillery in Oaxaca. We just recently did another batch. And of course, there we exactly defined the different agave varieties, even with the percentage. And so you can really kind of experience these different flavor qualities of different agave varieties. So the last one is what we call author, distiller, the person who actually is making the product and the style, how they distill, and we really kind of try to push these people, these distillers in the foreground and really try to focus on their particular style of distilling. So these are like the 3 elements which we use, and yeah, that's basically what we do at the Freimeisterkollektiv. What we also think is maybe a good idea for the whole discussion about craft, yeah, we can continue the discussion later on. Here you see how we kind of put all the producers on the label. This is a product which we did with 3 different producers, with a winemaker, because there's also wine in this product, with a distiller, and with a bartender who actually came up with the idea and recipe. So we really try to bring together also different people to create one unique product, and then source this also from different locations. In this case, it was really a project from France, Spain, and Berlin, Germany. So thank you.